Hello and welcome to the Niche Guarda YouTube podcast series, powered by our organizations openbusinesscouncil.org and citiesabc.com. We are here again to continue talking about business, what makes us doing great business, our technology requirements, our organizations, and especially how we can actually make bridges between our businesses, between our needs in terms of engagement, in terms of relationships, trade business, trade corridors, and a lot of different things. And today I'm very excited to bring, I think for the first time to my channel, one organization from South Africa, which I'm very enthusiastic and as well very bold to portray. And I'm welcome to our series as well, the chairman, so Sharon Constanson. So Sharon is the chairman of the South African Chamber and CEO of Genius Methods. Leadership at the South African Chamber is marked by a strategical focus on promoting bilateral trade between South Africa and the UK, fostering growth in membership, and continuing the path of change initiated by her predecessor. Sharon's dedication and vision are instrumental in driving the Chamber's ongoing developing and success. And her background is as a charter director and charter secretary with an MBA. Is also as well with a background with multiple roles, including non-executive directors for Transact South Africa and the international committee member of CISI, and also CEO of Valufan, a Forex advisory firm. Sharon specializes in tailored board evaluation service for a wide range of industries, including listed companies, SMEs, family businesses, and much more. She's known for her confidential, honest, and effective board evaluation that consistently improve the way companies and organizations and their corporate management improve their performance and move forward in scale and growth. Sharon accolades including the SACC Businesswoman in Business Award of the Year 2013 and being a finalist in the Institute of Directors Red Neville Bain Memorial Award in 2015. And she's a sought-after speaker and mentor, sharing an extensive boardroom experience with industry audiences and offering valuable insights into the roles of boards and non-executive directors. About the Chamber of Commerce, of course, Sharon is going to tell us about it, but just for people listening to us, we'll put all the links in the interview. The South African Chamber of Commerce is an umbrella organization and conduit for trade, community, and investment into and out of South Africa. And the organization aims to bring under one concerted effort a forum and meeting point for businesses who have an interest in both the UK and South Africa in an attempt to facilitate the development of business opportunities and trade corridors. Welcome to our series, Sharon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here with you. Thanks for the invitation.
My pleasure. I'm very excited. So I never went to South Africa, but it's one of my countries in my list. But I went to a lot of countries in Africa, and I've been working with a lot of countries. And of course, South Africa is a mythical country for a lot of reasons, from an history, from multiple reasons, as well. A very dynamic economy with a lot of bridges to the world. So let's start by a bit of your background, especially when it comes this interview, and it will be the first of the second interview. This one is about the South Africa Chamber of Commerce. So can you highlight a bit of your background and how you end up being the chairman of this organization?
Let's give the short answer that comes at the end of what I will explain by mistake. Let's go back to the beginning as to how that started. I had a business in South Africa, which I listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, took retirement, traveled the world, had lots of fun, but I was under a 10-year non-compete, which is fairly onerous and quite difficult to do business under those kind of circumstances, even if you can work alongside those restraints of trades or non-compete clauses. And being a British citizen as well as a South African, I decided it was time to come back to the mother country of my family and to do business here in the UK. That brought me to doing something that a lot of South Africans don't do, not like the Swiss or the Swedes or the Spanish or any other country in the world. They love their own communities and they meet up with them regularly. South Africa really doesn't naturally do that. And I think it's because we've had to learn to live alone. We've had to learn to live under sanctions. We've had to make things work. We've had to cope as a country, irrespective. So people are quite self-sufficient, and therefore the need to join a community of your own kind isn't as strong a draw to South Africa as it is for many other African countries even, that will happily meet up with their own kind. If Nigeria or Ghana have get-togethers, they have hundreds of people. South Africans, there are hundreds of thousands here, and the community isn't anywhere near as strong. But I did turn to that community when I first came here to find out who was who did I know, that kind of thing. And through the years, I kept contact with that community, got on with doing business, started my governance business, restarted my Forex business when the 10 years were over, and was getting on with running a large estate here in the UK countryside. And I got asked the one day by what had now become the South African Chamber of Commerce UK Limited, and had now been formed into a legal entity rather than an association of people who wanted to meet each other. And the person in question said, I'm really struggling with certain things. You're a governance specialist. Will you come and help me for one meeting? That was coming up 9 years ago. It's 8 years ago now. 8 years ago, and the rest is history. I joined the board as a director, and then about a year later, the then residing chairman wasn't comfortable with balancing her new job commitments on a role that she had taken on as a lawyer and looking after the chamber, which is primarily a pro bono organization, particularly then it was only a pro bono organization. And after a year of being on the board, there were about 6 or 7 of us on the board at the time. Our chair resigned, and nobody was picking up the mantle. And as the story went, I said, look, we can't let this chamber go. It's all of 3 years old or something at that point in time. All the work that our predecessors had put in, it was not our fiduciary duty to allow it to lapse. So I said I would take on the chairmanship for the 3 months until the AGM. That was 8 years ago. So as I say to you, by mistake, I have loved every minute of it. I've still got a year to go as chairman, then I've done my good governance 9 years, which will be the longest serving chairman that the chamber has ever had. And it is incredible what we've done, who I've met, what we've achieved, what businesses we've done, how we've grown the membership, how we've made the chamber a sustainable organization. So it has been an incredible journey, and one I will never regret having done. But it has absorbed a lot of me, and it is something I'm very proud of having achieved. So we go into the last year with now having a CEO having joined the organization, equivalent of a chief operating officer. So I've got a key person on events, a key person on membership, key administration, marketing, and I'm now freeing myself up from the executive roles that I've been carrying out, and now moving primarily into a non-executive chairman role for the last year to create the foundation for whoever might be my successor in the chamber going forward for the next whatever period that person might be. Now, that might be me in handover because it's only a year left, but we have put forward to our nominations committee now to move on. But I will always remain very close to my heart and very involved with the chamber, irrespective of the role that I'm holding. So it really has become a bit like a teenager that's about to fledge. So it's, you talk about the empty nest syndrome and your children leave home and you think, well, what do I do now? our next interview will cover what do I do now, which is going back to my own businesses and back to the specialisms of business delivery that I do as a consultant in two completely different business areas. So that is how I got to be in the chamber. So an all-round average, a business person with financial training, with marketing training, economics training, management training. I've got a very broad academic background, which gave me the foundation which to do a role of this nature.
Well, that's amazing, the history and how accidents can make a life or rebuild new areas that sometimes you never thought about it. So
change your life completely.
That's wonderful. And as well, I think what is special is, like you said, when you started this, that there was not a lot of tradition of organizations and events like this. So you are as well changing the ecosystem of a country, of a business. So I want to, of course, most of people here, unfortunately, of course, when people think about South Africa, they always think about Nelson Mandela and about all the challenge that went through. But of course, there's a lot of innovation. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of companies even thriving through all the challenges that are, of course, the country is facing, but as well opportunities. So tell us a bit, first of all, how the chamber works, a bit of history besides your personal history of the organization, which is partly the same, but it's slightly different. And as well, for people that never heard about it, what they need to know.
Okay, thank you very much, Dennis. The chamber is a chamber of commerce. It is not funded by government like most chambers are, and it survives entirely on the goodwill of South Africans and their membership fees. So it is a challenging environment to run a business like that when you are not able to be supported by your government. Actually, we work very closely with the High Commission, Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, which is the most closely aligned department of our government. We do work very closely with them, supporting them, doing stuff together, engaging on ministerial visits, doing events, partnering with them on events. But this is all done under the financial support of our own members. We work very closely with the DIT and the High Commission of the UK government, who are located down in South Africa. We work as equally closely with them, making sure that the work they're doing, we can support on this side, work with them very directly in South Africa. So what the Chamber has done is created a network footprint of connecting South Africans in many ways, and our primary focus as the UK Chamber, the South African Chamber UK, is to uplift the lives of South Africans. So whether that's working in business, in charity, in education, in supporting a lobby, getting their voices heard, changing environments, working directly in aid. So we do a lot. We cover various numbers of bases to support our objective. So we run with a 3-year strategy of the business about what we can do. We are very robustly constituted. We have a very solid board. We have a very solid governance structure. We have a very solid risk management structure, finances. So we're a very, very strongly run organization. It is not for profit, so it is owned by its members. And we will work with companies that wish to learn about the international market and are based in South Africa. We will work with companies that are UK located, interested in doing business in South Africa. We work with South Africans that are here that want to be part of a community. They want to learn from one another. They want to grow with each other. We work with South African individuals who have a focus on the international world. So our next step after starting to create a foundation of membership was to then work with different locations in our geography where South Africans existed, because at one point we were seen as being a gathering of white males to drink beer. So we had to fix that, because I'm not a white male and I don't drink beer. So when the chamber formed out of the business club and various other amalgamations that came together, we worked on a business agenda rather than a social agenda. And we then located many areas around the UK where South Africans have concentrations, so that we were not seen as being a London-centric organization. We want to be a global organization. We have now got what we call chapters, geographic chapters, that sit throughout the UK, the Crown Dependencies and Ireland. And that's North-South Ireland. It's the greater continent of Island of Ireland. And then we have got chapters in South Africa. We've got 4 chapters there, which is Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and the Orange Free State, or now Free State, around the Bloemfontein area. That is our most recent chapter that has joined the stable. And we are having a relaunch of our Western Cape chapter next month. So they are becoming more active again. And what we are making sure is that we are relevant to individuals where they are, wherever they are, and whatever their interests may be. So we've done geography. The next stage was then to look at special interest. Are you interested in technology? Do you want to mix with the youth? Do you want to go on bike rides? Do you want to go to financial services forums, tech forums? Do you want to discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion? Or do you want to go to a trade seminar? What are your interests? So we have created, I think it's about 9 special interest groups, which allows us to be relevant to a specific desire, interest, hobby, passion that an individual might have. So we do that. So we've got geographic, we've got special interests, and those cross over each other, and people can be a member of both geographic and special interest areas of the chamber. This allows us to get individual and company membership, not just in London, but in a much broader spectrum. We still decided that wasn't global enough. So our next stage was to join up and form the International Association of South African Chambers of Commerce. So we are now an informal association of 8 South African chambers that are outside of South Africa, across the globe, ranging from Japan to the US and in between. And we are growing that membership. So whatever we do, they can pick up on. What they do and is of interest, we pick up on. So our membership population is actually quite extensive, being able to find out what is going on in South Africa, how to do business, how to do trade. So that is how we've grown our membership. We do now have the luxury of in-person meetings, which changes the dynamic of everything we had to learn to get through COVID. Now we are in this situation where we have in-person, and we probably have on average about 3 in-person meetings a month. If you look at October, we are probably sitting closer to 5 or 6 in-person events, of which 5 are actually going to be in South Africa. So we are all over the globe. We are important. We make South Africans be important to learn and be part of an international community.
Well, first of all, congratulations. It's really impressive what you achieved in so much little time, and as well the dynamics, because I think one of the things with all this hype around AI and business and technology, the media doesn't highlight any of these things that organizations like yours are doing. And I think this is more important than almost all the buzz that happens, because even me and this channel, I probably speak more about AI than I speak about the challenge that people are facing in SMEs, and all of us, because in the end of the day, I am an SME as well. So let's start with one question very important for people listening to us. Of course, there's the numbers about South Africa, but some numbers about the South African Chamber of Commerce, the number of users. I know that you do events, that you have awards. You mentioned the chapters. A bit of some macro statistics for people listening to us.
Our reach is, our membership is just short of 200 members, and that's made up of a mixture of individuals, SMEs, and large corporates. Our membership categories are quite a few, but our primary income driver categories are Platinum, Strategic, and Patron. Our patron member is Barclays International, a UK entity, and our strategic partners are people like Hogan Lovells, Anglo American, Nedbank, Standard Bank, Investec Bank. So some of the bigger South African related organizations fall into our strategic category. And these are members that get engaged, they host, they bring content. At the same time, we have a remit of what we need to do for them to earn their return on investment for the fee that they've paid us for the year. So we work very hard and very hand in glove with our members to deliver. Our platinum members are very broad, all sorts of industries, all sorts of sizes of business, charities even. We have a complete remit. And then below that, we have the SME categories, the smaller businesses, the self-employed, the professional organization, the smaller organization, and the individuals and the youth and the foreign people that are foreign or retired. So we have quite a range of ways you can become a member and not hurt the budget and to work for what you need. And I don't talk about it as membership. I talk about it as marketing spend. If you take a look at what a membership fee is and you put that into your marketing spend budget and see what it delivers versus what that exact same amount can deliver as a marketing spend via the Chamber's efforts, your return on investment is substantially higher than any other average marketing spend that an organization can get. Even as an individual, it is your marketing spend because you get out there and who are you going to meet for a very small amount of £190 a year? Just think how far that money goes as to how you can build your networks. You can't do it for lesser amount of money. You go to a handful of events and you've paid more than that. So it is a very good marketing spend and a good return on investment for any member. So our membership, if you look at the last 7 years that I've been involved as chairman, we've taken our membership from somewhere around about 30 odd to almost 200. And obviously there's a correlated growth in the income side of it that goes with that. The years of COVID were stagnant completely. We'd stopped marketing. We didn't try and sell it. We didn't feel it was ethical. We felt we must now just be relevant and given a place and a platform for fun. I think our most viewed YouTube video, and all our events are up on YouTube, is the creation of the national anthem by 14 or 15 South African artists recording it in their home under COVID. We then brought all of those productions together and we created a single compiled version of the national anthem. It's quite moving. It really is good. And a lot of people have watched. I probably thousands of people have watched that. So the events, we put on over 100 events a year. And those are a mixture of in-person and webinars. Our webinars are very efficiently run. We run for exact time limits that they're there. And we range from meeting the governor of the Reserve Bank, meeting people in the president's office, meeting the president ourselves. So that was also exciting. And creating an event around his visit last year in November when he met with the king. And then we have things around Black empowerment. We do a lot around well-being. We do topics around environment, logistics, infrastructure, talking about well-being. I think it's really critical for us to respect and understand that humans today are really taking strain. We look at our members, we look at our staff, we look at the way we have to make such difficult business decisions today on the hoof, for want of a better word. A large percentage of a global population, and actually in the advanced countries, even greater pressure of negative well-being that organizations are having to recognize their team are having to survive under. So we like to highlight that because however much the Royal Family are doing a really good job of also bringing this to the fore, that well-being isn't an assumed condition, and also that it is an employer's responsibility. So that, for example, is one of the efforts we make. We do a lot around ESG, environment, social, and governance, in all those three chapters. And many organizations that are SMEs, for example, can use their membership with the chamber as part of their delivery of their ESG desires, whatever those may be, because they might not be able to do it themselves, but as part of a greater organization, they can. And they can then get the benefits and realize the value of actually growing their ESG activities. So we have a lot of members that join us. No, I wouldn't say purely, but that's one of the major draws as to why they would join.
Well, that's impressive. First of all, congratulations, because there's a lot of things, a lot of topics as well that are super important that could take us to one podcast in itself. And I know as well that it's not easy to do what you guys are doing, especially we went through COVID, there's a recession worldwide, and South Africa has been going through a lot of other challenges that we have climate change, we have a lot of things. So let me ask a couple of things. So you've been focused on the bridge between South Africa and the UK as the major focus of the chamber, but of course South Africa is the second biggest economy in Africa. Well, probably in some ways the first by influence, but second by dimension, and it has, of course, a huge impact in the world because of its, of course, all the things that happen post-apartheid, but as well for its dynamics in culture, in business, and as well in terms of the effect that has in the rest of Africa. So I would like just to see, for people that don't know much about business in South Africa, especially what it is to run a business in South Africa, because of course there's a lot of myths about insecurity. I think a lot of things you have challenged that most of the world you don't face, and as well as a country with a lot of velocities. So a bit about the business and what it is to do business in South Africa.
Thank you for that. I'm going to just answer two very different topics to begin with. One is, if you go to South Africa as a tourist, you don't see any of the things that we worry about, security, crime, that kind of thing. Because if you're sensible and you've booked carefully and you've traveled in a sensible, wise manner, you will honestly wonder what everyone is talking about when they say there are challenges to the business, challenges to the economy. Because thanks to the tourism trade, there is a lot of bustle and activities and restaurants and good food and wine farms, and there is so much activity there. You would never think the country is not technically in a recession, but is really struggling economically. You wouldn't see it as a tourist. If you come in as a business person and you're traveling to South Africa and you've come for meetings and you look at the efficiency of Uber, of our Gautrain, of our airports and the road system, and you think, very first world. Extremely first world. Our banking is incredibly first world. Our rule of law is first world. There is so much that is really high quality. And you can't see, again, the crime, the corruption, the state capture that we witnessed. It is not visible. It's just one of those things that stealth happens under the surface. So one can easily be tricked into believing the country is a thriving first world entity in many, many aspects. And there are dimensions of its economy that absolutely are. But there are areas that if you go out of the cities, into the poorer areas, into the country, if you go into the area of Mpumalanga, which is due east of Johannesburg, in the northeast between Johannesburg and the Kruger Park area and Mozambique and Swaziland, that area which is a coal mining area, you can see the poverty there. You can see the stresses of the change from a carbon fuel to what's going to have to become a green fuel. You can see the harshness that has impacted those economies, those people, those communities. If you look at KwaZulu-Natal, a very vibrant, what was a British colony, and the strength of the Zulu nation, and also the home of the Indian nation for various historical reasons, all three of those exist. A major quality business integration space, and how it has suffered from a weather and human factor of an uprising just over 2 years ago. And the weather that has followed since then has absolutely created the incredible amount of damage that has to now be rebuilt and putting a lot of strain on businesses in that environment. You find yourself in the Free State, in the middle of the country. It's like stepping back into the world of farming and of living off the land. It is the legislative capital of the country. It's a very calm place. It's where things just happened as they did 40, 50 years ago. Things just carry on as normal, very efficient, very effective, almost like you're living in another country. If you then move to the Western Cape, which is where a lot of the Brits and the foreigners find themselves, at least as a starting point when they engage with the country, it's like stepping into another completely different country again. Cultures are different, the engagement is different, the business is different, to the point that actually quite a few people now commute. They're act as swallows. They live with their family in the Cape, where you have a quality of life-work balance. You've got the nature, you've got the sea, you've got the mountains, you've got all sorts of outdoor activities, and then you go to Johannesburg to work during the week. The hybrid world that COVID brought us has allowed for a greater amount of that to happen efficiently and effectively, and quite a few people will work 1-2 weeks from home, 1-2 weeks from the office, and various iterations of that have allowed a lot of South Africans to find the balance between quality lifestyle, family lifestyle, business lifestyle, because South Africans generally are very hardworking and they will put their families second quite readily to work. And if you look at the economy is struggling thanks to state capture, part of our recent history. And what state capture means in English is a level of infiltrated corruption that crossed government and business, state-owned, private business, large business, small businesses even, and literally fleeced an element, a layer out of the economy. And this was something that happened by stealth. We spend a lot of work between the Chamber, Gibbs Business School, a couple of business organizations and bodies to try and become more aware, because this happened under our noses. We watched it happen and didn't register the collective influence of what state capture was doing until suddenly it all amalgamated and you realize what had actually occurred. It could so easily happen again. So there's a lot of work being done by business to protect business from this abuse and corruption that can happen. Now, that layer of corruption had 10 years plus to infiltrate, and it is deep-rooted, and people have an expectation. They've grown up in a culture of corruption and know no different. So there's a massive education program going on as well with our youth to help them understand this is not a way of life. There is another way, and the ethics and integrity of the people have to start with the children. So it's building it up so that 2 generations from now will say, well, what was that awful period the country went through? There is crime and corruption where it's blatant, it's in front of you, you see what is happening, there's that degree of corruption, but that is more visible, you can protect yourself against it more easily because there are just the normal ways of being sensible. You can stay away from that kind of thing. One of the other business challenges South Africa has is red tape. It has tied itself in a red tape knot, and it has people in various sectors and industries whose sole job is to untie knots, cut them, allow businesses to flourish. But the natural psyche of the people, of the government, past and present, is to control. And that degree of control stifles business a lot. It equally, we have to say, has been the generator of creating a mid-range economy, a middle class that never existed before. So it's done good, it's doing harm. So what we have to do as an economy is grow beyond the restrictions we've wrapped ourselves up in. There's been, for example, a lot of corruption. There used to be a joke in South Africa, if you fill in a tax form, you're a criminal because you're bound to have lied somewhere in there. So now one of the things that South Africa has really focused on in the last period of time is tightening up its tax system, for example, tightening up its bribery and corruption, tightening up its regulatory environment, its compliance environment. One, so that money that's due to go into the fiscus, into the government does. That's the first one. And the other one is obviously to protect the man in the street from the degree of corruption that has existed in the past. So in a way, we've now added another layer of red tape, but it's a red tape layer that the world is used to. The South Africa is not used to, but it's on top of this knitting ball of so much red tape already. It's created a death by regulation at the moment and a very negative feeling internally with this new red tape, but it has a place. What we've got to do is undo the stuff that we don't need. Don't keep building on what we've got and keep adding more to it. So there is a work in progress in South Africa to address the red tape issues. It is slow, but people like the Chamber of Commerce, people we work with, are highlighting these issues to government, putting a voice through to government, working with business, and some of the voices to government that business are part of, to give advice as to what needs to change.
Well, fantastic. A great portrait of the country, and as well from someone that has been in all the areas, from entrepreneur, from business, from organization in the enterprise world, and as well in the SME world. So some statistics for people listening to us, and I know that we have time for probably one more question. So just for people listening to us, South Africa has 59.39 million inhabitants as of 2021, probably right now is 60 million. And one very important thing is really the dynamic of the economy. So according to OECD, there's an estimated 2.6 million micro, small and medium enterprises in South Africa, which is about 37% are considered formal. Of the total, 54% are micro enterprise and 50% are located in rural areas. So that's quite a big number for an economy, which is the second biggest in Africa, and as well still very important for the world economy. And as well, geopolitically, is a very powerful country, as we see right now with the BRICS and everything happening right now. So I would like, as my last question, especially about the Chamber, because this interview is about the Chamber. You mentioned a lot of the initiatives you are doing. And you mentioned about your members. Probably the question, and I will try to open it a bit, feel free to as well promote some of the things, but what would be the challenge you felt from the SMEs and from the organization, because you have two different kind of organizations, that you felt that the organizations and the companies that come to the Chamber are facing and they need? Because I think that's the question that we have to ask, not give them more technology that no one even knows how to use. So what are the problems that you feel that people are facing? Of course, besides the political, that part is much more
Everything
complex.
else. So we'll leave all of that out, done and said. The kind of challenges people are dealing with is lack of knowledge of what the opportunities and options are available to them. A lot of people that are in that micro informal sector you talk about, often nicknamed the black market, it's informal. They only know what they know. They only operate within their microcosm of their economy, their immediate community. What a lot of the work that's been done by the Chamber through many, many charities, NGOs that are on the ground, is uplifting the quality of support given to those micro businesses and bringing them into the formal sector, getting them registered as companies, getting them to become educated themselves, to understand what the options are. There are many, many, many initiatives going on, and we support as many of those as we can. And not only to support them to deliver the work that they're doing, but to support them so that people like those listening to us today can know what is actually happening. There's a lot being done. There's a huge amount of effort being put into the country to change some of those dynamics. One of the other stats is that South Africa's gotten unemployment. It's officially close to 40%. But if you look, I think it's got the highest unemployment in the world, or second highest unemployment in the world. But if you look at the youth unemployment, it's sitting somewhere around the 50% mark. It is horrendous. This is where our crime comes from, and the looting and the problems that occurred in KwaZulu-Natal 2 years ago. So the importance that we've got to do is actually help people to realize that Just because that's where they are, that is not where they need to stay. People can quite easily, with effort, absolutely, with support, with funding, with education, with this helping structure that the charities, NGOs, and chambers all offer, that actually they can be global players. I mean, you look at the business process outsourcing environment, where we've actually helped one of our members in promoting what work they're doing. They're a UK SA business process outsourcing unit. And for everything they're doing, there's work and benefits that go into the charity sector. We educate, we put schools in. Everything that they're doing has a two-pronged structure. We do it for business, but we do it for the people as well. And this is what is happening hugely with a lot of business, is that they're taking on the S side of ESG hugely in their business models. So South Africa, if you take a look at an individual who's got enough tech to be online with a connection, and look how innovative South Africans are. They're spending up to 12 hours a day with no electricity, and they can still communicate with the world. That is, I mean, the innovation, the resilience, the agility that South Africans have to do work and to earn an income is phenomenal. And these people can get jobs with global corporates. They do not have to say that I have to go into the black market and sell fruit or make sure that I do somebody's ironing. I can actually have a global position. I can work in a global environment. And it's that knowledge of helping them understand they're a child of the world. They're not the child of the village that they live in, and that they can grow beyond the aspirations of what their parents could only be forced into not achieving. They've got an open wall. They can go much further. Let's empower the population to change the economic growth of the country. That's where the power is going to come from. That is how government will be forced to change and acknowledge that they can't control absolutely everything and allow a freedom of the people to help change the economy. You need government. Government has to exist. It has to do its job. You need the economic and fiscal and tax powers in the country to do their job. Absolutely critical. But we've got to empower our people to be, as a generation, in another place to where their parents were.
No, you answered fantastically. And I appreciate as well the fantastic insights. I know that your time is now. I want to thank you for the fantastic insights. I learned a lot about the situation in South Africa. And like you said, first of all, for people listening to us, the percentage of people between until 19 years old is 33% of South African population. It's huge.
There's an election next year. It is a watershed election, as 94 was when Mandela came in. This is another massive watershed election. And how do we empower, energize, and make people feel responsible to take it into their hands to vote? We know how low voting is globally. It's not a unique South African situation. How do we get people to think along economic, business, and opportunity lines rather than tribal or historic lines? Can we get them to empower their leaders? There's so much interesting stuff happening just in that space alone. And please watch. South Africa will be an interesting place for the next 12 months and beyond.
I'll make the words yours for my channel. And this is about a social impact channel as well that I want in a good way, that is empowering people. Like you said, there's so much people can do. And I'm very thankful and grateful to have you here. I want to respect your time. Thank you so much. And for people listening to us, we'll put all the links, all the information.